Hi, and welcome to the webinar series Writer to Agent, created by the Association of Writers and Writing Programs in affiliation with Folio Literary Management. We very much hope you enjoy our presentation.
Today we're going to be talking about Loglines, how to best pitch your project. Before we start, here's a little bit about me. My background is unique in that I'm one of the only New York-based executives with a 360-degree scope of experience in entertainment and publishing. I've been involved in all sides of the entertainment business, having worked as an executive for production companies run by producers such as Scott Rudin, Arnold Kopelson, and John Davis. I was a studio executive at USA Films. I worked for Michael Ovitz, Rick Yorn, and Julie Yorn at Artist Management Group in both the feature film and television production companies. I worked with AMG Talent and helped fledgling authors get published. I've been an executive producer on the movie adaptation of the Judy Blume novel Tiger Eyes, and more recently on Humor Me, starring Elliott Gould and Jermaine Clement. While I was a book editor at Hyperion, I edited the New York Times bestseller The Shift by Tori Johnson, who's a presenter at Good Morning America. Early in their careers, I championed authors Caleb Carr and Adriana Trajani, and I helped John Grisham find a publisher and a film deal for his novel, The Firm. Today, we're going to be examining what a good logline looks like and how to best pitch a book using one. A logline is one of the most important components of a story pitch. It's the one sentence that explains the core concept for your story. When it's done right, the logline explains why your story needs to be told. Other names for logline are pitch, elevator speech, and tagline. If you cannot clearly and concisely sum up a manuscript, it's likely because the project is not ready. There are three basic elements in a logline. A very quick sense of who the main character is, the catalyst that sets the story in motion, and the nature of the challenge they now must face and the difficulty. It helps when constructing a logline to identify the protagonist. How you approach this will depend on the point of view your manuscript is written in. Depending on the point of view, this could be very easy or surprisingly difficult. If your manuscript has multiple perspectives, this will require a closer look. Multiple points of views could mean there is more than one narrator, but one is obviously more central. In such a case, you would choose the character who is more central to the story. However, there are two cases which might make this more ambiguous. For example, in a story which features two strong main characters, it might not be clear which character should be included in the logline. This will require closer examination. Consider the tone of the project and who is more central to and driving the action. The second instance of multiple perspectives would occur in a story in which each chapter focuses on a different protagonist. An example of this would be The Women of Brewster Place by Gloria Naylor. In that case, the protagonist in the logline would be a group of people rather than one, like the women of a housing project. In a story told in the third person, the protagonist will depend on which stories are told from an omniscient point of view and which are told from a limited perspective. Whichever character the reader knows more about in terms of their thoughts and feelings will be the protagonist. common mistake people make when trying to describe their characters in a logline is using a character's name. Unless your character is a celebrity, their name probably does not need to be in the logline. A good logline is brief and to the point. Another common mistake people make is being too vague. A logline is not the place to be vague. Be specific. Let people know what your book is about by adding depth to the characters and giving more information. The key in determining the objective is looking for the overall goal instead of getting bogged down in each specific conflict in the story. Here's an example of a logline for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone that doesn't quite hit the mark, compared with the second one that is better. The first logline does not focus on the key conflict in the story. Even though it's intriguing, it introduces too many concepts to the reader without conveying the main conflict in the book. The second logline is much better because Harry is no longer passive. Instead of things happening to him, he's the one driving the action. Furthermore, it focuses on one key conflict while introducing the reader to the other important elements in the story. After identifying the objective, it should be clear who or what the obstacle is. The obstacle is the antagonistic force which prevents the hero from achieving his or her objective. When describing the obstacle in the logline, try to use words that are active and dramatic. In addition to the core 3 elements, it's important to give a sense of setting in your pitch if it's relevant to the story. For example, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee would be a very different story if it had taken place in San Francisco. In that case, social conventions which shape the story are dependent on the setting. If a logline does not specify a time, one will assume the book is taking place in the present. If that's the case for your project, then don't mention it. Otherwise, it's important to include the time period in the logline by including key words. For example, if your book takes place during or around World War II, words like Holocaust, concentration camp, and Nazi will clue in the reader or listener to the time period without a full explanation. For sci-fi books, or any books written in the future, giving a sense of time and place is essential to setting up interest in your story. Due to the complexity of the plot, characters, or setting, mysteries and thrillers often require a setup at the beginning of the logline. In this example, using The Bourne Identity by Robert Ludlum, we've highlighted the setup. This logline clearly outlines our 2 protagonists, our main antagonists, and the high stakes of the story. It might be helpful to emulate this style in your own logline. This exercise may help you become more comfortable encapsulating stories. The more you practice, the easier it gets.
Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments or you want to submit anything to Folio, don't hesitate to reach out to us at awp@foliolitmanagement.com. Or if you want to reach out to AWP directly, they can be contacted at awp@awpwriter.org. Thanks again and hope we hear from you soon. Take care.